Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's called Jumpstart Omnichannel ABM with Customer Data Platforms. My name is Claudia Tarico. I'm the features editor at Demand Gen Report, and I'll be your moderator for this presentation. If you're new to Demand Gen Report, we're an online media company publishing daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a rich menu of additional resources. If you haven't done so already, join more than 50,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing to Demand Gen Report today. We host a premier live event in Scottsdale, Arizona every February. It's called the B2B Marketing Exchange, and it focuses on helping professionals improve B2B marketing and sales strategies and results. Rated a top B2B marketing conference by Forbes each year, B2BMX brings 900 and more marketers together for a 3-day educational and networking event that includes more than 85 sessions throughout 6 topical tracks. You can learn more about this unique event and sign up for updates at b2bmarketing.exchange. Be sure to follow us at #B2BMX on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for updates and special offers as well. We also invite you to become a part of our online community of B2BM experts, where you can connect with like-minded professionals, join in B2B-focused conversations and initiatives, and even compete for some really cool prizes. Check out our thriving community at b2bmx.influitive.com/join/now. Hosting a very special sweepstakes throughout this week-long series where attendees can win Starbucks gift cards or a free ticket to B2BMX. So if you register for an SPS 18 webinar, you'll automatically be entered for a chance to win. And if you attend any sessions live, you'll receive a second entry. We'll be giving away 1 Starbucks gift card per session, 1 B2BMX free pass per day. So be sure to attend all of the sessions for your best chance to win. For we're using the On24 platform. During the session, you can access all the information you need from the platform toolbar. During and after the session, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag SPS18. You will also see that you can tweet from directly within the On24 platform using the Twitter widget on the left side of your screen. We also encourage you to ask our presenter questions, and to do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of the screen. And today's session is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes, with a few extra minutes, 10 to 15 for Q&A following. You can submit those questions using this Q&A widget at any time. Today's session is also being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review or share with colleagues. We also welcome you to let us know how we're doing by taking a very brief survey. It'll automatically launch once this webinar session ends. And you could even pull it up, complete, and submit it at any time during this webinar by clicking the survey icon. It's circled here at the bottom of your screen right now. Take a moment to quickly, take the questionnaire before signing off today so we could make our webinar series much better as we go along. To introduce our featured speaker, Nipul Chokshi, who is the VP of Marketing for Lattice Engines. Prior to Laddus, Nipul built and ran the solutions, marketing, and sales enablement functions at Yammer, which was acquired by Microsoft in 2012. Before that, he led product management and marketing at Marketo and Merced Systems, which was acquired by Nice Systems. And he lives in San Francisco and is an avid runner. Very cool. Welcome, Nipul. I'm going to kick it off and let you begin your presentation.
Thanks, Claudia. Hello, everyone. My name is Nipul Chokshi. I run marketing for a company called Lattice Engines. We'll talk a little bit about what Lattice does, but wanted to just spend some time with you here today talking about how our customers and your peers in B2B marketing and sales are able to drive successful omnichannel account-based marketing programs using AI and data. It goes without saying that account-based marketing is what B2B marketers are striving for today. And there's a lot of different surveys out there that prove that out. This is just some example stats from a variety of different folks from the likes of Forrester, Gartner, and some other industry sources here, talking about the importance that marketers, B2B marketers, place on account-based marketing programs. Unfortunately, most marketers are struggling when it comes to driving their account-based marketing programs at scale. This was the result of a study that Forrester Research did earlier this year, where they found that really only 1 in 5 marketers are really seeing an effectiveness increase, are really seeing the value from their account-based marketing programs. Before we dive into the root cause for why this is the case, let's talk a little bit about what account-based marketing is. As marketers, we all know that account-based marketing is really all about identifying a select set of target accounts and then engaging them with very personalized content. But I wanted to peel back the onion, if you will, and just look at that in a little bit more detail. And if you really think about it, account-based marketing, really there's 4 key tiers to it, 4 key pillars to it. First, it goes without saying that you need to be as hyper-targeted as possible. You need the ability to to be very segmented in terms of your offers and your messages based on fit, timing, and need. At the same time, the engagement, the messages, and the offers that you drive as part of your ABM campaigns really need to make sure that they're referencing some relevant statistics, some relevant insights, and you need to kind of educate the buyer and kind of really make sure that you understand the buyer about their business and their business context. Third, it goes without saying that true account-based marketing is multi-touch. It's not a one-and-done proposition. In B2B marketing and sales, nothing really is, right? So you want to make sure that you've got a sequence of steps that you're following when it comes to actually reaching out and engaging with your customer or prospect. And then finally, you want to make sure that you're engaging with your buyers across different channels. Similar to B2C, B2B buyers expect to be engaged via a variety of different channels. So they want to be fed the right message at the right time at the right place. And so when you look at ABM, it really is kind of the combination of these 4 things that you have to do in order to be successful with an ABM program. Now, as CMOs, VPs of marketing, we've done our best when it comes to addressing the ABM challenge, and we've gotten part of the problem right? So we've made a lot of investments, as I'm sure you all have, in different channels and different technologies, right? So different ways to reach your buyer. We've taken that multi-channel, multi-touch aspect of ABM very much to heart. Right? So we've invested in ad targeting capabilities. We've invested in social marketing, email marketing, content marketing, and so on and so forth. The challenge with this approach, and this is what really prevents us from really driving successful omnichannel ABM programs, is that each of these channels really has their own silos of data. The targeting and the knowledge and the insights that I have about my buyers in my email marketing system is very much different than what I know about my buyers if I were trying to engage them via Facebook. Very much different than if I were trying to engage them via my website. Very much different than if I were trying to engage them through search channels, and so on and so forth. Now, because of these silos, what winds up happening is it makes it a lot more difficult for us to really do omnichannel account-based marketing very effectively. First and foremost, we may or may not have all of the data that we need to drive the segmentation that we need so that we're as targeted as possible in terms of the accounts and contacts based on fit, timing, and need. At the same time, the data that's available in email marketing that might enable us to be a lot more relevant, be a lot more insightful, and provide messages that are insightful may not be available to our social marketers or to our search marketers. And so we don't have the ability to kind of drive that insights-led message in a consistent way across channels. When it comes to being able to touch the prospects, because all of these different channels are very much siloed and the data and the performance of the channels are siloed, it takes a lot of coordination and manual work in order to make sure that we get the sequence and the timing right across all of these different channels if we were to run a multi-step ABM program. And then lastly, as I just said, doing this across channels, again, tends to be a challenge because each of these systems is very much siloed in terms of the data that it actually provides. And so that's the challenge that Lattice solves for its customers. Our customers are B2B sales and marketing folks from enterprise companies looking to be able to drive successful account-based marketing programs, and they leverage Lattice to do that. And so what Lattice does is it enables you to really bring together all of this data that you've got captured in your email marketing systems, CRM systems, ad targeting systems, content marketing systems, and so on and so forth, and kind of bring that together into a single place that marketers can then access for segmentation purposes. And then once you create your segments and audiences, Lattice will then publish those into all of your different channels so that you can run and activate very hyper-targeted, very insights-led, multi-touch, multi-channel programs so that you can drive that successful omni-channel engagement that account-based marketing hinges on. And so we're fortunate to have been validated, by a variety of different folks. If you look at the Forresters and the Gartners of the world, as well as look at our reviews on G2 Crowd, you'll see that there's a lot of testament to companies that take this approach when it comes to driving successful omni-channel account-based marketing programs. Here are a few examples of leading companies that are able to leverage the Lattice platform to drive omni-channel account-based marketing programs. As you can see, it's a pretty big combination of large enterprise companies as well as high-growth companies like MongoDB, for example, right, and MuleSoft that are able to drive very successful business outcomes as a result of leveraging kind of a centralized data platform in order to drive more targeted campaigns and programs for their customers and prospects. And here are just a couple of examples of the metrics and the business outcomes that companies like the ones that you saw in the previous slide are able to achieve. One of the things that as we work with our customers is when it comes to their omni-channel account-based marketing programs, they're able to drive value not just for net new customer acquisition, but for driving relationships and growth with their existing customers, for being able to reduce churn, and so on and so forth. I think we all know that the true power of account-based marketing is really manifest itself from a marketing and sales standpoint when you start to apply it across the entire funnel, right? So you don't want to just use it as a strategy for acquiring net new customers, but it's also very effective when it comes to driving relationships, cross-sell, upsell opportunities with your existing customers, as well as being able to identify who's about to churn so that you can arrest that as soon as possible. And so let's talk about a few examples. What I want to do next is just provide a little bit more color, move away from kind of the theory, if you will, and give you some practical examples. And so what I'm going to do is talk about 3 specific companies, Adobe, Informatica, and Masergy, and walk you through their programs. How was it that they were able to use AI and data to be able to drive omni-channel account-based marketing programs and see, and we'll take a look at kind of some of the business outcomes that they were able to achieve as a result. So let's start with Adobe. I think everybody on the call is fairly familiar with who Adobe is. They've been in a lot of news lately. They recently acquired a company I used to work for, Marketo, and so I think everybody's familiar. One of the challenges that the marketing team at Adobe had was, again, being able to drive more engaging and more relevant experiences with their prospects and their customers. And the approach that they took, the thing that I like about the approach that they took was it was very much an all-encompassing, account-based approach. They called it account-based experiences rather than just account-based marketing, account-based selling, account-based upsells, and so on and so forth. And the reason for that is that they approached it from the perspective that everything that they do when it comes to interacting with their customers, they wanted to make sure that it was as engaging and relevant an experience as possible. And so they adopted very much kind of a crawl, walk, run type strategy. They started back in 2013 with their account-based experiences program. They had 22 accounts. And like most of us getting started with account-based marketing, they started with their most strategic accounts, right? So they worked with sales to identify, kind of the top 20 must-win accounts. They worked with executives and whatnot. And then they had a team dedicated to making sure that they were driving value across those. Over time, they saw that that program was so successful, they wanted to be able to scale that. They wanted to be able to drive that same level of personalized engagement, not just for their 22 strategic accounts, but also be able to do it for about 500 accounts using more of a vertical lens when it came to their sales and marketing, and then ultimately expanding to 12,000 accounts, which really kind of that's where they consider kind of their account-based experiences engine to be really driving to scale. And so that's where they were able to use the AI and the data to be able to really scale up that personalization, if you will. The first thing that they did was obviously just aligned across the different stakeholders in the organization in order to drive the most relevant engagement with their target accounts. So what they did was they took their universe of 12,000 accounts that they were targeting. They applied AI to be able to identify based on fit who were the first tier, who were the tier 2, and who were the tier 3 accounts that they would be pursuing. They validated those with sales, and then they developed kind of a go-to-market approach for each tier, where tier 1 would get more allocation of resources than tier 2, which would get even more allocation of resources than tier 3. So the idea here is it all kind of starts with using the AI and the data to identify kind of the different tiers of accounts that you want to pursue, and then allocate different resources based on the value or the likelihood to convert that you have within your account universe. Once they'd obtained alignment in terms of the target accounts that they wanted to pursue, they leveraged AI and data to really fuel their engagement strategy. And the way they look at the world, they break up the different types of signals that they can use to tailor the messaging and the offers into 3 different tiers. One is fit, and this is looking at signals like what kind of different technologies are people actually investing in. Do they have partner technologies that Adobe might partner with, so that any sort of messaging and whatnot could reference those partner technologies to, again, make that message or offer as relevant, as insightful as possible. The second tier is really, they call it intent. Some of our other customers, they again call it third-party intent or intent keywords, right? This is basically what people are out there on the internet searching on and doing research on, keywords or topics, whatever you want to call it, right? And so that was a signal that, again, they were able to use Lattice to get for each of their 12,000 accounts. And again, that was additional insights that they were able to use in terms of the messaging and the targeting that they used in terms of engaging with their prospects. And then lastly, Adobe, it's a really well-known brand. They already had a lot of engagement on their website. People were visiting Adobe not just anonymously, but they were also engaging with their content marketing programs. So they used those signals in conjunction with the fit and the third-party intent in order to make sure that they were really as relevant as possible when it comes to the data that they were driving, when it comes to the engagement and conversations that we're driving. Once they had all those signals and once they knew kind of what those conversations needed to look like for the different types of accounts, what they did was they coordinated with sales on a kind of it's a multi-touch outreach, multi-channel outreach. And so the idea here is, rather than just marketing kind of doing their thing and sales doing their thing, they made sure that they were very coordinated with sales in terms of the outreach, right? So marketing would start out with an ad campaign that would run as air cover for the duration of a campaign, the entire ABM campaign. Then they would send out an email, a week later an SDR would follow up. A week later there'd be a direct mail package. A week later the field sales rep would follow up, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that they not only kind of drove these personalized messages through these different channels, they were able to do it across different channels as well as in a very coordinated sequence, if you will. And you can see some of the results, right? The key thing here to kind of look at is like the win rates. One of the things that they saw as a result of this account-based experiences program was they were able to substantially increase their win rate. And they'll attribute this to the fact that they've got more, they're more targeted, they're more insights-led, and they're able to, again, engage the buyer in a very structured, coordinated way over time across different channels. So that's Adobe. Let's talk a little bit about our next customer, Informatica. For those of you who don't know, Informatica, they're a big player in the technology space. They sell giant databases, data lakes, data governance software, and so on and so forth. They have a huge market that they're going after. And similar to Adobe, they started their account-based marketing programs just by focusing on kind of the tip of the pyramid that you see on the slide here, which is their strategic accounts. What they wanted to do was they wanted to scale the benefits that they saw there, and so they decided to expand that program to their enterprise as well as the mid-market accounts. Now, for Informatica, mid-market accounts, kind of the cutoff there is $1 billion in revenue per year and above, right? So for them, it turns out that they had about 80,000 accounts that they wanted to be able to engage in a more personalized, in a more one-to-one way in order to really make sure that they're capturing as much of the market as possible. And so how did they do this? Well, so first, what they did was they used the AI and data to get as hyper-targeted as possible. So they used the Lattice AI ratings to be able to identify who their A targets, B targets, C targets, and D targets were, right? That's number one. Number two, similar to Adobe, they looked at third-party intent signals. So companies that were out there on the internet doing searches on keywords like data governance or 360 analytics and so on and so forth, they kind of used those signals. And they also looked at what people were browsing on the Informatica.com web pages. Now, what they did was they used these signals to really identify what kind of buyer journey to actually put a buyer into. Their product marketing team came up with a really great framework for being able to kind of essentially take their buyers and to segment them into one of four journeys based on a variety of different signals that a particular prospect exhibited. You can think of each journey as kind of a solution that Informatica sold. And so the idea is if a particular target account was most likely to respond to a data governance offer and at the same time had been out there on the internet searching for data governance type keywords, GDPR compliance and the like, they would put that target account and all the contacts in those target account into the data governance journey. And once they're in the data governance journey, what Informatica did was they would basically engage the contacts and those target accounts via personalized messages across sales, across social, across display, and across their email campaigns. And so let's take a look at one of the campaigns that they were actually able to run here. One of those campaigns that they ran was on the social channel, specifically LinkedIn. So for all the LinkedIn marketers out there, I think you're aware that LinkedIn provides some pretty good targeting capabilities, and it's a pretty good platform when it comes to targeting very specific accounts. And so they were seeing okay results when it came to driving conversions using the LinkedIn campaigns. But what they wanted to do was really kind of take that to the next level with the intent data as well as the AI that Lattice provided to be able to drive even better results and be more effective when it came to contact acquisition through the LinkedIn channel. And so what you're looking at here is a chart that shows the results of how their different campaigns performed. So kind of that red bar, if you will, on both of the graphs, what that does is it represents kind of the traditional, if you just use the LinkedIn targeting, those were the results that they were seeing in terms of conversions, which for them, for this campaign, was really measuring the post-click conversion rate. So someone clicks on a LinkedIn ad and then fills out a form and actually provides a name. What they found was if they actually personalized the ads based on the intent signals that they were expressing as well as the fit signals, and at the same time they made sure that they only spent money on A and B targets rather than peanut buttering their spend across any target account. What they found was they saw a 230% increase in terms of the post-click conversions. And they saw that while at the same time seeing a 260% decrease in terms of the cost per qualified lead generated. So the idea here is they were able to actually increase the number of contacts and names that were part of their target market, by a factor of a little over 2x, right? While at the same time they reduced their cost because they were able to optimize their ad spend and able to focus their ad spend on specifically accounts that were most likely to convert, their A and B targets. So you can see that the power of using AI and data is vast indeed. And so I want to close out the presentation with our final example, a company called Masergy. Masergy is a telecommunications company. They're a mid-market, company. Compete with the likes of Juniper, Level 3, sell a variety of different networking communications and security, online security products. And what their challenge was that they wanted to actually be able to grow their direct business. The company, when it got founded, was very much built on an indirect channel model. They have a lot of go-to-market partners, and what they were looking to do was really expand their direct channel capabilities. And so they realized that AI and data was a critical part of that. And AI and data, as we'll see as we talk about this in a little bit more detail shortly, played a critical role in a variety of different ways, right? So first, they needed to be able to identify and hone in on what their target account was. They needed to be able to prioritize and segment those target accounts so that they can allocate resources where it most made sense. They also needed to be able to have the insights that they needed in order to drive as personalized and as relevant an engagement across different channels as possible. And so similar to the Adobe and Informatica story, they started with using AI to really identify who their ideal targets were. The idea here was they used the Lattice platform to create a predictive model that enabled them to essentially score and identify all of their target accounts that were most likely to convert if they were to engage with Masergy and the Masergy direct sales force. And so what Lattice did was, as part of that process, the model would tell them what are the key attributes that you really should be looking for. What are the signals you should be looking for when it comes to identifying new targets for you to be able to pursue. Having identified their key target accounts and prioritized them, Masergy had developed a pretty comprehensive set of multi-touch, multi-channel campaigns. This is just a simplified view of what that looks like, where they ran ads as ad cover, while at the same time driving engagement through the email channel, the SDR channel, the direct mail channel. There was also some events that they were doing as part of these campaigns. So the idea is that they, once they identified their A and B targets, they went about to engaging them, and they did so in a very cross-channel way. One of the key challenges for Masergy here was really making sure that they really understood the buyer well enough in order to be able to drive as targeted a message as possible. And so what they did was they looked at the data and the AI that Lattice provided in order to really be able to identify which persona a particular target account and a contact belong to. And then based on that, they would engage that persona with the relevant messages. One of the really cool things about this, they actually, one of the personas that they pursued was, they call it the global innovator. So these are companies that sell, obviously on a global basis, but they tend to be more of the up-and-comer companies that are willing to try new business models, that are willing to innovate from a business standpoint. And they had a really good message that resonated with that persona. Now, in order to identify whether a particular target account was actually a global innovator, they looked at a variety of different signals that Lattice provided. So they would look at, for example, whether a target account was doing a lot of searches on cutting-edge technologies and topics and keywords like crypto or blockchain or Bitcoin, right? And at the same time, whether the company had invested in the latest and greatest tools and technologies, things like Slack, for example, right? And so they were able to use those signals to identify and assess whether a particular target account was a global innovator. And if they were, they hit them with the most relevant message that they knew was going to ensure that it converted that particular target account. By employing AI and data to be able to engage with their target accounts in a multi-touch, multi-channel way, to do ABM, Omnichannel IBM, if you will, Masergy saw some great results. You can see some of the stats here, ranging from increase in terms of the effectiveness of the ad channel to increase in pipeline, increase in win rates, and reduction in sales cycle time. On top of that, the Masergy team also took home the ABM Program of the Year award, awarded to them by Serious Decisions back in 2018. And so there you have it. Those are just 3 really quick examples of how global companies are able to drive successful omni-channel ABM programs using AI and data. For those interested in learning more, our founders actually just recently wrote a book on this topic. It encapsulates all of the learnings that we've accumulated since the company's founding in working with companies like Adobe, Masergy, Informatica, Dell, Office Depot, Staples, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I encourage you guys to check it out. There are also a few other resources that I know are available via the webinar screen here. So with that, I'll turn it back to Claudia.
Thanks, Nipul, and that was a really great presentation with some fascinating real-world examples. It sparked some really great questions, but before I get to those, I'd like to remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today. You can access that by clicking the survey icon on your screen. The survey will also automatically launch once this session ends. All right, so let's get to those questions. First one. How does a CDP differ from a DMP? And if you have one, do you need the other?
Yeah, great question. So generally, when it comes to CDP, a customer data platform, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier, is very much different from a DMP, or for those of you who don't know, a data management platform. DMPs really come from the B2C world, very much focused on ad targeting. They're now being leveraged for B2B sales and marketing as well, but very much, again, focused on ad targeting and advertising use cases. For our customers, I would say that companies use the Lattice platform, which is a customer data platform, in conjunction with a DMP, and the way to think about it is a CDP, a customer data platform, really talks the language of people and accounts, whereas a DMP talks the language of cookies and devices, which is kind of the targeting lingo that you use in order to really be able to drive targeted ads. And so a CDP will integrate with a DMP, and there's a variety of different ways in which you can do that, but the idea is that they're meant to really work in tandem, and it's not a one or other proposition.
Interesting. All right, we have another one here. Does the number of attributes or signals Lattice tracks remain the same, or does that change?
Yeah, okay. So when it comes to the number of attributes and signals that Lattice tracks, what Lattice does as part of the platform is we'll not only bring in your first-party data, but we also, we've made a significant investment in terms of consolidating all of the third-party signals for every company that's out there, 200 million plus companies. And so we're able to track things like, what kind of technologies are they using behind the firewall? What kind of, keywords are companies searching for? What's the ad spend for different companies? What kind of, number of locations that they have, number of employees per location, and so on and so forth. So we're tracking 20,000 plus attributes, if you will, for 200 million plus companies that customers have the ability to leverage. And we're constantly looking at adding more on an ongoing basis. We typically we partner with over 40 different data providers, and then we do our own data scraping and curation on top of that. So we're always adding new attributes on an ongoing basis.
Great. All right, we have a few more. Here's another. Where would a CDP fit in an existing martech stack?
Yeah, great question. And so I'll, again, kind of turn that in just so I can give as much color as possible, just give you examples of kind of how Informatica, Adobe, and Masergy, the three examples we just talked about, do it, right? So, kind of the way they all tend to look at a customer data platform is really, they look at it as a segmentation engine that really sits above, all of their data sources. So for Informatica, what they're doing is they're taking all of their CRM data, their marketing automation data, transactional data, their web analytics data, and they're kind of consolidating all of that in Lattice. And then basically what sits on top of a customer data platform is all the different channels that you would use to actually execute on your campaigns. So it's very much a, kind of sits in the middle, if you will, between all of your data sources and all of the systems that you use for executing campaigns.
Cool. Here's the next one. Are the signals Lattice Data Cloud gathers GDPR compliant?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to the attributes that Lattice collects, as part of our Lattice Data Cloud, they are anonymized and aggregated to the account level. So it is very much, very much GDPR compliant. For customers where, Lattice does provide contacts, and that contact information, again, like the idea is that, those are very much GDPR compliant as well, just in terms of the sources, and kind of based on whether or not those contacts have actually provided opt-in information to those sources, we kind of make sure that we're on the right side of that there.
Cool. I think we have time for one more question. Here's a good one. How do you get sales to buy into the concept of Omnichannel IBM?
Great question. As B2B marketers, I like to think of it as, whatever we do, we're not going to realize the full value or the full impact of B2B marketing unless sales is actually, bought onto it 100%. And so that's something that we always have great conversations with our customers on. When it comes to getting sales buy-in on account-based marketing, omnichannel account-based marketing and whatnot, at least in our experience, that's typically been an easier conversation to have. The reason for that is, you're now basically going to sales and saying, hey, you know how you sell based on the accounts that you're targeting rather than based on persona alone. Marketing's going to do the same thing, and so just the fact that you're aligning with sales, just in terms of that strategy, goes a long way towards getting their buy-in. I think the bigger, strategy question in terms of the alignment is really around how do you go about doing that? How do you, if you were to leverage AI and data to help you to drive, your account-based marketing strategy, how do you make sure that sales actually adopts that, right? That's kind of the key piece there. And there are a variety of different things that our customers will do, ranging from, just kind of not just customer examples, but also just running pilots, right, and actually showing them the results, right, doing kind of an internal A/B test, if you will, between two populations of reps, where one population of rep gets kind of the standard insights that they've always been provided, and then the other population receives, kind of the AI-based insights and data, and then looking at kind of the appropriate performance of both groups, right? So there are a variety of different ways, in which you can kind of get that buy-in in terms of making sure that the approach to doing omnichannel ABM is, you've got sales fully on board for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Nipul. That's all the time we have for questions today. One for such a great session, Nipul. That was awesome. Our attendees asked some good questions. That was really fun. Please be sure to join us for our next session. It's called How to Bust Through Roadblocks and Think Differently. It kicks off tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.